hey, all your money that you have in U.S. dollars and in U.S. central banks, we're not going to value any of it. We're going to steal it from you like we did with Afghanistan, like we did with Russia, like we did with Venezuela. Parts of Syria are now parts of the U.S. And I want to know how many Americans out there, how many Americans really, they're like, yeah, that's what I want. Even right-wingers, most right-wing Americans that I know would be like, well, it was good we went in there. He needed to be bombed, but why are we still there again? I mean, even they are like, wait, we're permanently in Syria? The U.S. is building a new base in Syria amid Arab League return. So Syria's been accepted back into the Arab League, which infuriated the U.S., and this is basically the U.S. response. The U.S.-led global coalition in Syria. Yeah, it's a real coalition. We got lots of folks just backing us up. We got the U.K., and we got, what was that other one? Guam. And is there one called Nauru? Is there a country called Nauru? Are they? So it's three. There's three. I think that's the coalition. Pretty sure. And Guam did send they're not sending any soldiers, but they did send a strongly worded coconut to the fight. Okay, so don't act like they haven't been involved. Don't act like they're not sending their best and their brightest. They're very, you should have seen some of the words used in that strongly worded coconut that they sent to add to the fight. The U.S.-led global coalition in Syria is building a new military base in the northern province of Raqqa, according to local media reports. The base will be in the, I got to pronounce that, in the Al-Sawadiyah area west of the city of Tabqa. A source told, we know where it is. Stop throwing in words I can't pronounce. It's just 2 miles south of Wagaduksha, and then it's also 1.5 fathoms to the left. Okay, stop giving me words I can't pronounce. Jesus, everyone knows where it is. I mean, no, we don't, but still, we get the point. Plans for the new base. Oh, God, somebody help me. Plans for the new base come as coalition forces began to equip a base just south. Oh, God, here we go again. Just south of the city of Raqqa. Is it near any other cities you'd like for me to try and say? Just south of the city of Raqqa a few weeks ago. The development comes amid ongoing attacks by the Islamic State group in Syria. Well, isn't it funny how you get attacked when you're there? I would say there's a direct correlation, things dovetailing and all that shite. There's a direct correlation between attacks on U.S. military and us being there. They almost always go together. Very rarely are we attacked when we're not there. Okay. In fact, I'd say nary a once have we been attacked when we aren't there. The development comes and attacked there when we aren't there. Sure, there was 9/11, but anyway. This comes at a time when Syria regained full-fledged membership in Arab League after it was reinstated in the bloc after 10 years. The move was seen as a huge blow to the U.S. Not the good kind of blow. This is the type of blow you don't want. You don't. This is not. It's the bad kind. Not like Ukraine tapping our arse. This is. You know what? I think that all these people writing about what's going on in foreign policy, they're really sexually repressed. All right. If you're making charts titled "Tapping That Arse" and you're saying that Saudi Arabia was a big blow to the U.S., come on, guys, just go out and get laid somewhere and work it out. You don't have to put it into your writing, which many analysts say is losing its political grip in the region. You think the U.S. is losing our political grip in the region just slightly because we've decided to create a proxy war against Russia, thereby sending it sprinting into the arms of China and sending many other countries sprinting into the arms of BRICS so that they can stand up against the petrodollar because we've said, hey, hey, all your money that you have in US dollars and in US central banks, we're not going to value any of it. We're going to steal it from you like we did with Afghanistan, like we did with Russia, like we did with Venezuela. If you have any money that isn't in your own currency in your own countries, we are there to steal it. We are just ongoing thieves. So, why do they want to turn against the petrodollar all of a sudden? It's a very good kind of currency. I don't understand. The move was seen as a huge. Oh, I did that. Okay, so we just built another permanent base in Syria, another one. This yet again signals that the U.S. has a permanent position in Syria. How is that not like an ongoing invasion? How is that not an affront to Syrian sovereignty? How is that not a stealing of their land? And yet we only talk, the mainstream media, the UN, the EU only talks about Ukraine, only talks about Russia's invasion of Ukraine, never a mention of a very similar invasion, stealing of land in Syria by the US. Funny how that works. In case you need a quick refresher course, Syria is just a few of the 900 military bases around the world that the U.S. has. $1 trillion spent a year on these bases and other military games. This resource at World Beyond War shows as many of the bases as they were able to locate. worldbeyondwar.org/no bases. No dash bases. And you can actually zoom in and see detailed satellite images of these bases. Meanwhile, while we have that many, so remember, keep this image of for those of you listening on the podcast, you'll just have to imagine the world covered in dots. But keep this image of all these dots in your head as I now bring up, depending on how quickly I can do it. Now bring up an image of all of the Chinese bases, China's bases around the world. I just thought I'd show you an image of those. Just to be fair, I didn't want to only show the U.S. bases. So here is all the China's bases. It's so for those of you watching the video, it's right there. That's the one, Djibouti, the tiny little country. Basically part of Ethiopia, tiny little country, and there's a Chinese base there, and that pretty much wraps it up. That wraps up my presentation of all Chinese bases outside of China, right there. And believe it or not, this image that I'm showing comes from like a Washington Post article talking about how threatening it is that the U.S. has a base. Alfred in the comment section is asking about Russian bases. Last I checked, there are 20 or fewer Russian bases around the world. And I think almost all of those, maybe 18, are in former Soviet bloc countries like Belarus. So it is close allies of Russia, and the number is 18 to 20. Now, I, of course, would prefer that countries had 0 military bases outside of their country. However, 18 or 20 versus 900 that we can count is, I'd say that's one-sided. I'm going to go one-sided on that. One-sided. So the U.S. continues our effort to own the world via military. We are losing the ability to own the world via the petrodollar. And so now we are moving on to we've obviously always been doing this effort to put military bases around the world. We've been doing that for years, many years. However, that seems to be increasingly the one thing that the U.S. has, which, if we're willing to use all those military bases, means basically a world war. It really is just a horrifying aspect that the U.S. has these bases around the world.